most people say it's a blur.
Right.
My blind audition was not a blur, and neither was the Grand Ole Opry. But right after they announced my name as the winner, that is a blur.
Was a blur.
I don't remember.
And I'm David Rives. Joining me in studio today, Todd Tilghman. Todd, how are you doing?
Man, I'm good. Thanks for letting me come.
Absolutely. It is great to have you here. Great to have you up on the Wonders Theater stage just a few minutes ago. You've been shooting for America's Gospel Music. I can't wait to see that air on TV shortly, but you've been sharing so many songs, and it's just beautiful what you do.
Thank you, man. I love singing, so I just do it for the love of it, and I feel like it'll turn out, you know?
That is so true. So many things in life that when you have a passion for it, then all of a sudden it does not feel like work, and you can really pursue that. And if the Lord's in it, hey, a lot of special things will happen.
To me, the work is the not singing part, you know? People say, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. I don't know about that. I work a lot, but I still do what I love. So the singing part I love. It's the other stuff that's done to work.
Because there's so much involved in it all. I get what you're saying. But tell me a little bit about your history, because I know a lot of eyes watched you a couple of years ago on The Voice. And then that finale, everything happened, all the stars aligned, the Lord was in it. And tell me a little bit about that whole journey.
Oh man, you know, my whole journey. Me and I met my wife when we were just little kids. I mean, literally, I think she was 13 when we first met. Right? You know, and I was 15 or so, and we dated on. She dumped me a handful of times. You know how that works. And one time I dumped her just to show her how it felt, I guess. We ended up getting married in 1998. Well, it'll be 25 years this year we've been married.
Oh, wow.
She was 18 years old and I was 20. And in that time, man, we've seen a bunch of stuff. And we've been, one of the songs I do, Still to Come, a lot of that, we wrote that song on the heels of a really tough time, but it really came from the idea that you're going to go through these really hard seasons, but it's better on the other side. The problem is most people give up in the middle. You know, we went through lots of those, and in the time, I always like to say we sort of amassed 8 children. 6 of them are ours biologically. 2 of them are adopted, but they're all just our children. And our family. God put our family together like that. We didn't have fertility issues or anything. It's just kind of the way God wanted to put our family together. And I've been in ministry. I'm still in ministry. It's just less traditional now. I've been in ministry since I was 18. In singing, worship ministry, and youth ministry, and I was an associate pastor. And then in the last 10 years of my traditional ministry, I pastored a church. And somewhere around 2017, about the time I wrote Still to Come, believe it or not, there was a lot of things that were happening in my life. I was already, I'm a fairly transparent guy. I hope that's all right. I was already sort of struggling inwardly, mentally and emotionally. I was struggling. I was doing all kinds of things. Like to me, the silver lining was I got myself in really great shape because I felt like that was something I could control. I've kind of dipped out of that a little bit, but but I knew that my time as a lead pastor, or at least for that season, was coming to an end, and I just didn't know how. Well, someone saw me singing on Instagram, and they sent me a private message with a link to an open call audition for The Voice in Atlanta, Georgia. It was a really long story, actually, very long, and I won't get into all of it, but ultimately I decided not to do that. And then my wife stepped in, and she reminded me that we have been very, and at times to our despair, but we have been very deliberate about teaching our kids to be who you are and take risks and do things that people make you think are crazy. And Brooke was like, that's my wife's name, and she was like, if you don't do it, how can you tell the kids?
Oh, wow.
And so I did. I went, and they just kept saying yes. I always tell this story because it's a funny story. They send all this paperwork, and you know the deal. Like if they like you, that there's a callback audition the following day. But I just expected them to say no to me, and so when they said yes, I had to go. I went to TJ Maxx. I had to buy some clothes. I didn't bring clothes for a callback. I had to rent a hotel room, and which was thank God for good friends. People helped us out. 'Cause we were under poor, you know, and we're kind of poor still, but you know, with all our big family. But so they just kept saying yes, and ultimately I had a blind audition for season 18 of The Voice, and all of the coaches turned around during my blind audition, which threw me. I mean, everybody. The number one, I guess, response I get from my whole time on The Voice was the blind audition and my reaction. But I'm not trying to be like pitiful. I didn't know that they'd want somebody like me, you know? So when they all turned around, you could see the excitement. I had these plans, I'm going to walk over here and I'm going to do that and sing. And they all went right out the window. And luckily for me now, looking back now, at the time it wasn't so, I don't even believe in luck, but you know, at the time it wasn't so lucky. I just kept expecting that I would get kicked off. So every time I got voted through,
you weren't prepared for the next step.
I was surprised, yeah, and I was legitimately surprised. And so even up into the finale, you know, our season was in the spring of 2020, which is literally everyone's worst nightmare,
right?
And so we had our blind auditions because they pre-taped those blind auditions, battles and knockouts in California. We were supposed to go back in April, and everything just fell stopped apart in March. Yeah. And so we ended up doing it remote. I talked the show into letting me film from our church because we have all those kids, and one of them is feral, completely wild. And so I was like, he will tear up y'all's stuff if y'all's equipment, I'm telling you. And so they let us film from the church, and even in the finale, you know, they said the lady that was. She's a really sweet lady that sort of was our handler, like the contestant manager, I guess is her title. She said not in person, over the tablet, she said, we're going to go to commercial, and instead of announcing third place or second place, we're just going to announce the winner when we come back. And so even in that moment, my wife and me, we looked at our kids because all of us were on screen. Wow. We looked at our kids and we said, when they announce the winner, don't y'all act ugly, and don't make an ugly face, and don't cry. We'll smile and clap. They're going to take us right off the screen. And so of all the things, the blind audition, since The Voice, I got to go on the Grand Ole Opry. Both times most people say it's a blur.
Right.
My blind audition was not a blur, and neither was the Grand Ole Opry. But right after they announced my name as the winner, that was a blur. I don't remember. I remember the contestant manager calling me again because we had to do like press or something. I remember that. Wow. But it was just
unexpected all the way to the end.
Everything, and it really just, and believe it or not, I don't know. You know, most people, I understand. I'm not crazy. Most people's experience is not going on a national television show, and but it really was an operation in faith, and God knows I'm a bird in the hand kind of guy. Yeah. Now my wife will go for the two in the bush, and she'll walk away empty-handed if she has to. But like we used to watch Deal or No Deal, and Lord, we almost divorced behind it. I'm like, you know, they would say the banker says $10,000. I'm like, deal. Right. You know, my wife's like, no. And so I always like to say, I think God gave me the grand gesture that he knew I needed to make the type of move we've made since.
Yes. And that was a wake-up call because at that point, you're like, well, this can be it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
So much really was riding on it for me. And I nothing disparaging at all about the church that I pastored or anything. That's not, it wasn't even about that. It was an inner Todd thing that was going on. A lot was riding on how just me being on there, period. But winning, I didn't dream I would do, but it sure did help.
Well, and there are people who have gifts. Todd, you're one of those people. I mean, I watched that whole season of The Voice and all the way through. I mean, I'm like, he's got something special. He's got something special. Your voice is very unique, number one. But everything about you, just your presence, your story, everything is.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that, you know.
Absolutely.
I just feel like if you just be who you are, everybody talks about branding and all, like, this is my brand, you know. When just about every green room I'm in, somebody comes in and says, is this what you're wearing? I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm wearing.
If you can't be authentic, then what are you?
Yeah.
And there are so many people who, they want to play games and they want to do, and there is such a thing as stage presence.
Right.
Absolutely, right? But in the end, and I think even this whole ordeal over the last few years that you had to go through on TV, but this whole COVID thing has taught people, well, there's a lot of fake in the media. There's a lot of fake in the world. There's a lot of fake everywhere we look. And people want to latch onto something genuine.
Right, yeah.
They want, who's the real you? Is that the mask that we see, or is that the real you?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, kudos to you for that, obviously.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I think that might be, I don't know, who knows the heart of God really, but like, I think that might be one of the reasons that God allowed this kind of thing to happen to me after I was 40, and I was kind of too old to pretend. You know, like if I don't know something, I didn't pretend I knew it. Even on the show, I just ask. You know, I don't know what you're talking about. You have to explain. And I do that now in the studio. They'll say, "Do you want us to go back to the 6?" I'm like, "I don't know what the 6 is."
I have no idea what
you have to tell me what the play it, and I'll tell you which one I like better. You know, and ultimately too, so much of the music industry in all genres, including faith-based. It really is, and I don't mean this offensively. I really don't. I'm just saying I think we've got our quotas full on that, so I don't want to be that. It's just characters on a stage, and it's a persona, and I understand that, and to a degree, I just don't feel like I can pull it off, because I feel like even now, if you follow me around, you're going to get disappointed, you know? And so I want to be as least disappointing as possible. I'd rather just tell you right up front, this is what you're dealing with.
Yeah, this is who I am.
Right, yeah.
Well, now, but you've been writing, even before The Voice, you were writing music.
Yeah, yeah.
And was it a mixture? Did you do different genres of music?
Yeah, I've always, now writing has amped up 1,000 times since the show, and it's kind of become a real passion. I really love to do it. But before, it kind of depends, like when we would be in the middle of worship, and we would spontaneously write a worship song, and then that would become a song that we sort of added to the list, you know, and then other times, you know, I would write, this has been since The Voice, but I wrote a song for Mother's Day last year for my wife called We Wrote a Story, and it's just a song about us, you know, in our lives, and I like to write things about what my vision really is as far as my faith is concerned, which is really the umbrella that covers everything. I mean, is I want, for the most part, I realize it's not all going to be that way, but I want to sing songs that have messages that are universal,
right? And
then hopefully people will hear that, and then maybe they'll look at me or someone, and they'll say, hey, you know, this guy loves Jesus, and he's not so staunch, and he's not out here on social media crucifying everybody, you know, and and he's just a regular guy that's trying to get by every day, and so people won't. I would love to be just the tiniest little part of killing that stigma, you know, about the faith, that it's this rigid thing, you know, and it's hard for people to understand that such a precious thing is free, and that
I know.
That the gift of salvation is just free, and that's kind of what I want to do. But I even write like Still to Come. Like I said, it's actually. I don't know when this will air, but Still to Come is just fixing to come out this Friday, actually. But it came on the heels of probably the worst time of our whole lives, and for that song, what my mind kept replaying was the scriptures that say, your suffering is light and temporary, it's working for you an eternal weight of glory. And the other major suffering scripture, which is the suffering that you're dealing with right now, is nothing compared to the glory that's still to come, you know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where that song came from. But man, writing, I love it. And now I gotta say, I feel really inept a lot of times when I'm in these rooms with these great writers. Yeah. But you learn your role, and you learn what piece of the puzzle you are, and then you grow in confidence in it, you know? Yeah.
Now, have you always been in Tennessee, or?
No, I did all of my growing up in Mississippi. I was born in Grenada, Mississippi. Okay. We lived in Kosciuszko for a couple of 3 years, and then we moved to Meridian when I was 14. So I always say I'm from Meridian because I lived there for almost 30 years, you know? And then after The Voice and everything, I literally, my wife is always the one to take the risks and do the crazy things. But this was the first time when I said, with this thing with The Voice and us winning The Voice, if we don't pull the trigger on this now, we never will. So we loaded up and moved up to Tennessee, and we honest to God, we've just been trusting God ever since. And sometimes He cuts it close, you know.
Right.
We've been trusting Him ever since. So.
You mentioned it a little bit ago. It's like, I just want to show people, you know, that it's not this rigid thing, that people who are on the fence so many times, and this is what we've experienced, because we focus a lot on apologetics, science, Bible history, that sort of thing. Yeah. And what we've seen is that there are I guess the last couple of generations, right? We've had 2 or 3 generations that have grown up, and they've been told one thing in church, they've been told another thing in schools and universities, textbooks. They're getting a different story on TV, right? And then they're questioning. They're like, well, how does this work? Our pastor's telling us one thing, and then we go to class and we're learning that, we're part of this heritage of ape-like ancestors. And so surely our science professors are smarter than our pastors. So let's just go that way and completely reject the other. It's throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? Because of this perception that, oh, well, these scientists are so brilliant. And most people don't even stop to think, well, science doesn't lie. I mean, science, that's the facts. That's the raw data. But then scientists start to interpret things. And you can interpret it the right way or the wrong way. And so often, this shallow Christianity that we've seen over the last few generations has kind of built up this opinion that, I'm going to church, but I'm not getting any meat. It's just this, it's just all of this, and we don't know what our real purpose is in life. But that's real. You got to get real to figure that out.
That's true.
And to me, Christianity is very real, and it's very deep. We've just taken it in the wrong direction.
I feel like, again, even on the other side of it, even on the I guess spiritual. I hate to say over spiritual, because I hate the word hyper grace. Like, I get what you're saying, but grace is fairly hyper. I mean, it's a pretty wild a concept, But I understand what they're saying. But even on the spiritual side, I don't want to. Because I'm honest to God, I don't have any problem telling anybody. As far as science and all that stuff goes, I'm dumb as rocks. I see the whole world from the front porch or across the campfire, and that's kind of how I determine everything. But on the spiritual side, man, I've been heavily involved in it, and a lot of times we can throw the baby out with the bathwater, or we can get so heavily involved in, I don't know how to put this, I don't want to be offensive to anybody. I just think we can idolize things like manifestations and all these things, and we totally forget now this is my view, and I feel like I got plenty of scripture to back it up. First of all, the carnal mind, the scripture says, is enmity, hatred against God, but second of all, my view is I think it's cool if your church organizes a trip to wherever in the world, a third world country or somewhere else. That's fine. Nothing's wrong with that. But the mission field is wherever you go.
That's right.
And like the banker and your insurance guy and the person that's changing your oil, or the dentist, wherever you are. And I really do feel like that's the place, because this is, again, I don't want to get in trouble, but
no.
I feel like we have enshrined and enthroned church where God is supposed to be.
Right.
Like, church is good.
Right.
It's a wheel inside a bigger wheel, which is the kingdom of God, And then also, I think a lot of times, if we're not careful, Jesus is supposed to be the center. But instead we put sin in the center and how we respond to sin instead of how we respond to Jesus.
Right.
Which to me handles how we respond to sin.
You have to know, obviously, that sin is the problem. But if you're not keeping Jesus as the center or the hub, then you're not going to realize, well, we have the solution. Let's focus on the solution, and that's Jesus Christ. Right? You said, well, science, maybe not everybody's familiar with too much in science.
I'm a little, but not a lot.
But hey, Paul said in the book of Romans, right? Romans 1:20. It's like the invisible things from the creation of the world are being clearly understood by the things that are made, even God's eternal power, the Godhead itself. So in other words, he's telling these people, just look around you. Everything. Right, It's like that blade of grass, that tree, that bird flying right there. Everything is a field of science. It's study of the natural world, but everything is pointing us right back to our designer. And then when we're able to understand that designer, that the creator is the same one as our redeemer.
Right.
It's Jesus, right? He's the creator of the entire universe. One and the same, then, it just opens up this amazement. You mean the one who created those stars and those galaxies, he loved me enough to come down. Right.
Yeah. I gotta say, I don't know that I could pick a favorite Paul quote, but the one I probably use the most is, every room I go in, I determine that I don't know anything but Christ crucified. That's all I know.
You go.
Yeah. Because, man, there are, even in the faith, there are so many, I want to say schools of thought. I feel like that's a bad terminology.
No, I get you.
But it's almost like we're so lost in the weeds that we've lost focus of what this is even about.
See, I think that these last few years have actually been good, because when people were so focused on church, they forgot who the church was. Mm-hmm. It's like the church is the ecclesia, the body of believers, right? It's us in this room, and where 2 or 3 are gathered, Jesus is in the midst. That is church. We are the church. Right. And people got so caught up in the buildings that when all of a sudden buildings started getting shut down a few years ago, and they're like, no, you can't go in there. And well, what are we going to do? Are we going to start complaining? Are we going to say, oh, well, I just give up? Are we going to stand up? Mm-hmm. Or will we say, well, you know what? We don't even have to be in the building, and it's still church, because we are the body of Christ.
Yeah, we can still do all. I was hoping, and look, I ain't got no problem saying I'm a nobody anyway, so nobody cares what I was hoping. I was hoping it'd be a total reset. It wasn't quite the reset I was hoping for, but I really was kind of hoping it'd be a total reset.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, well, I hope they did at least, because I always say Easter Sunday, my very favorite one in history was COVID. We were sitting in the living room with my family. We opened up the scriptures, and we just talked about who Jesus is and what he did and why it matters. And, so I hope that at least a lot of people, maybe, if you want me to use an object lesson, when I came off of The Voice, now I know how to put an audio interface with my computer and record. I know how to do that, you know, because I had to learn that, and I realize now, hey, I can do that. And so I do hope a lot of people in that time, even though now it's kind of past, especially here in the South, it's been past for a long time. Yeah. Hope they learned that they can be an active disciple in the world, and affect change, and even little.
And that doesn't mean doesn't necessarily mean, oh, you have to go overseas and you have to develop. Right. It's that witness, not just where you are, to your neighbors, to your coworkers, to your family, when you sit down at Thanksgiving, when there's that skeptic, when there's those questions, when your child meets a schoolmate or whatever, and they're like, yeah, we're leaning towards, we don't even know if God exists, right? It's how do you respond in those moments? Yeah. Now, you said you have, what, eight kids? Eight kids? Yeah. What age range?
23. Believe it or not, my oldest, and my wife is actually like go into labor naturally and all the things, and so it just was God's will. My oldest and youngest have the exact same birthday.
Wow.
16 years apart. So my oldest is 23. I have 23, 19, 18, 14, 13, 10, 9, and 7.
How about that?
Yeah, and so the oldest 2 are out of the house now. They're out in the world, and it's amazing to see, like, my oldest son lives on the West Coast, and that scares me so bad. I just try not to think about it, but it's really amazing to see that he's being able to operate in God's gifts that God gave him, and he's very, very involved in God's kingdom out there. My second oldest is much more musical, like I am, and in a little different genre, but and then my third is going into ministry, even after I've told him all the horror stories.
Oh, wow.
He still wants to do it. So it's wild to see how God. But one thing I always try to teach my kids, or I don't want to say teach other people. I don't know that I'm their teacher, but I really do. I realize it's a much broader sphere than this, but I just believe, man, just do the next right thing and love the one in front of you. And absolutely. That's the best I know to tell you for now. And I feel like that'll build into, and you look back over your life, because you think about it. I always told my kids, adventure rarely feels like adventure while it's happening. Right. It's when you look back on it. Yep. And that's the same as our testimony and our presence and activity as members of God's kingdom. Little by little, you may not see it, but if you look back over it collective, you're like, wow, look, God really has used me, and I'm grateful for that.
That's so neat. Latest project?
Oh man, the latest thing, like I said, I don't know when this airs. The latest thing that I've got is I wrote a song called Still to Come. It's coming out July the 14th. That's this Friday as we sit here now. But that's coming. I'm working. It'll probably be too late by the time this airs. But I'm real honest with people. We had these ideas and we ran after them and they're fine. But we spent all our production budget, and then I co-wrote a song that I really love, so I'm crowdfunding it right now.
Oh, okay.
Because I just really, really love the song, but I've already spent all my production budget.
Yeah.
And it's believe it or not, it's called PB&J. It's the people in the Christian world might know Michael Farron. I wrote it with Michael Farron and Lance Carpenter. And honestly, when we go in to write, unless you already have an idea and you're going to chase that next time you get together,
right? It's a blank slate.
Yeah, I've got all these ideas, and I like to write fun songs and goofy songs, and sometimes, and I feel like this generation. I know he's still alive in the world, but I feel like this generation could use a Ray Stevens.
Yes.
But so. I don't know what happened exactly, but Michael actually spoke up, and because he had heard me mention the title, I was just rambling through some titles or something, and he said, "Can we chase that?" But it did not turn out goofy or funny, because when I wrote the title in my notes, it was kind of a every day taking the kids to practice, kind of trying to get through the day, kind of eating PB&J.
Yeah.
But it did not turn out that way. It actually turned out very emotional,
really, and
very moving and sentimental for parents to their kids, and it's literally the hook is these are all the things that parents say, like, you can do anything you want to do. You can be president or even fly to the moon, or you can be a doctor, a lawyer, a preacher, or a farmer. Don't let nothing stand. Write a song the whole world sings and dream those great big dreams. And all of this happens. All these things are just the simple things parents say while they're just making them a PB&J, and that's kind of and I love it. And so we're working to get that out too.
That is so neat. Website?
Yeah, ToddTofficial.com.
ToddTofficial.com.
My last name is spelled crazy.
So you make it simple right there.
And also, believe it or not, there is another Todd Tilghman in the world with the GH in the last name and everything. Wow. He's a realtor in Colorado, I believe.
Okay.
So he has ToddTilghman.com anyway. But I feel like nobody can spell my name, and it's not their fault. So Todd T
Official. Social media.
I'm on Instagram. So, I mean, even if you spell it wrong, it'll find me. Todd Tilghman. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Oh my God, I'm on TikTok.
How about TikTok?
I'm on there. I'm not super active on there, but I'm on there. I just like, I watch it more than I post on it.
Yeah. Todd, thank you so much for joining me in studio today.
Absolutely. I appreciate you asking me to come do it.
Yes, sir. And I am David Rives. Till our next time, keep looking up. Truly, the heavens declare the glory of God. Find us on all social platforms to stay informed. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification to be sure you're notified about new videos just like this. And hey, remember, we're a nonprofit ministry, so all of your donations help us make content just like this.